Ndewo. Ndewo is an Igbo Nigerian word that means long life to all of you. And that is what I pray for each and every one of you gathered wherever you are underneath the sound of my voice. You know, for us, we believe that Ndewo means greetings, which it does. But I always like to emphasize the true meaning, which is long life to all of you. And isn't that what we want for each other? Long life. Long life. And in addition to long life, what we need to sustain life. So welcome to Ndumodu. Ndumodu, words of wisdom to add to your repertoire so that you will always continue to be enriched by wisdom and so on and so forth. I'm Dr. Wanyo Hosimere, and I'm on Ndumodu. You see, I'm wearing my crown today. I feel like I should wear my crown today because I feel like we sisters, wherever you are, to wake ourselves, define ourselves, because nobody can define us but us. And so I am trying to represent. So here we are. I'm the president of the African Women Economic Consortium, and I'm also the global head of the Women Leadership Mobilization of the International Preparatory Committee of the Pan-African Federalist Movement. Welcome to all of you, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. I want to, before I bring my guests forward, I want to share a video by Alicia Keys, edition of James Weldon Johnson's Lift Every Voice and Sing. It has some very important messages in it. But I've gone to different events and I see people sing it, but sometimes I wonder, do they really understand what it's saying? What is that song saying? If you pay attention, it has a message for us Africans. It's not just something we sing. It's something that's asking us to act. So I just want to play that for a moment, and then we'll come back and discuss and bring my guests forward.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the glistening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing a rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on to victory.
I don't know who listens to that and doesn't just pause to take in the message. There's a message in there. The first part of that song is saying, lift every voice and sing. It doesn't say lift one, it says lift every voice and sing. That means all of us. It's going to take all of us to change our world. And then the last part of it, when until victory is won. So that means to be victory somewhere. And what would victory look like? What does it mean victory is won? Would we see victory? We would recognize it. Does victory mean unity? A unified front, all of us marching in unison towards a goal? Is that what it would look like when victory is won? Does it mean that when victory is won, all of us collectively will put in all of our skill sets, working together? Is that what it means when victory is won? When victory is won, does that mean that we will recognize the good in each other, nourish each other, take responsibility for building each other up? Does that mean that we will take responsibility for all over Africa so that all of Africans can enjoy? What is that what victory means? Is that what it means when it's won? Does it mean that each one of us will now see that we have the capacity to build, to create, and we support each creativity? Is that what it means? What does it mean when victory is won? Does it mean we'll look at each other and say, hey, I am not here just to take in, I have a responsibility to my own people. What can I do? We can't shrink into greatness. We have to come forward, bring all that we are to this. What does it mean when victory is won? Does it mean that every single one of us will realize that we have a talent, that we are part of a talent pool that can be utilized for the movement of bringing African people together? Do we have faith? Is that what it means? Can we have faith in each other, that we have the capacity to change our condition in the world? Can we do that? Is that what this song is saying? That's what it's saying to me. And that is why this month is very important to me. We are celebrating Black history in the form Pan-Africanism. We're dedicating this month to the Pan-African Federalist movement. Everything this organization is about is contained in that song, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And if you don't know what that song says, perhaps you take a moment and go, it's all over the YouTube, and learn what that is saying. It's speaking to you, not just me, not just a few of us who are trying to bring us together, to all of us. That's what this month is about, the Pan-African Federalist movement. Putting into action, not just words. Trying to bring the reality of coming together. Africa uniting in this decade, right now. We don't have any more time to waste. Before I go any further, let me applaud the vision of President Adama Samaseko and Vice President Amadou Seck, Secretary General Jume Ndongo Faye, I hope I'm saying it correctly, of the IPC, and all of the chairs of the divisions that are working so hard to bring into reality the words of Lift Every Voice and Sing. I'd like to thank all of the RCCs, the NCCs. These are all the coordinating committees, regional, now local, international, and all the members of the Pan-African Federalist movement. My guests today are special people. But let me tell you why they're special. They're not special because they're doing anything extraordinary. They're special because they're taking responsibility to play their role in the whole scheme of things. They understand, just like I do, just like many of us do, that we have a responsibility and they're doing their part. And so it is my pleasure to welcome my guest today, Chief Dr. Ndumodu Ankowanda, who is the chair of the Metro Atlanta Pan-African Federalist Movement Local Coordinating Committee, and Brother Anti Kepa Amin, Deputy Chair of African Local Coordination Committees. Welcome, Dr. Ndumodu Ankowanda. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. I am so excited to be here today. I want to thank you so much for allowing us to be here to spread the word about the Pan-African Federalist Movement.
Absolutely. And also let me bring in Brother Auntie. How are you today?
Good morning, Dr. Uwa. Good morning, Mama Ndumodu.
Good morning
it's good to be
you.
Here. And I'm excited and looking forward to our time together today, sharing the good news of the Pan-African Federalist Movement.
It is indeed good news. Thank you to both of you. Dr. Ndumodu, I want to start by asking you this very pertinent question. You have a wealth of educational experience in the African philosophical thought. Could you share some of what you are all about before we start talking about the Pan-African movements per se? Tell us about you. It's important to know who you are and how you got into this whole, the Pan-African.
Oh, we could be here for the rest of the 365 days.
Just briefly.
Fine. Okay. I guess I can start with my first introductions to African history was at San Francisco State back in '71 after I graduated from UC Berkeley, and I was introduced to African history and culture, and I ended up going to Ghana in '69. I was probably the youngest person on this plane that Betty Shabazz was on, Eric Lincoln was on. Going there and took a class there on the culture of African culture class while I was at the University of Ghana in Accra. And when I got back, my mind and my brain was just full of ideas about how do I stand up for determination, for self-determination. And the only thing I could think of without, beating somebody down, was to name myself, but actually somebody gave me the name of Ndumodu. Ndumodu means mother of humanity, and Ankowanda means sleep until the battle is won. And that's been my journey from that point on. And so I decided I was going to name all my 5 children with African names. I was going to bring in the culture as much as I could. And I worked in the public school for 10 years, and I was just couldn't understand why they weren't teaching children about who they were, why they weren't teaching the children about their history. I did, with my little class that I had, each class I had for the 10 years, I taught an African history class, maybe 1 hour a day. And I got complaints from parents saying she's teaching too much African stuff, and complaining to the principal, that's too much African stuff. Can you tone it down some? Because I was giving kids African names. We were doing Kwanzaa. We were doing everything I could think of that would culturally engage the students. So I finally left after 10 years and said, I'm going to start my own school. And so it was going to have to be African-centered. So I started in a 2-car garage in my home with my children, and then we expanded from there on. And I Africanized every piece of curriculum I could find. I found curriculum in Portland, Oregon. I found curriculum in Chicago. And we just made it work for us. And I joined the Council of Independent Black Institutions. At that time was the umbrella for many African-centered institutions across the country. So I'm still involved with the Council of Independent Black Institutions to this day. So is that enough?
That's enough. Well, I know there's a whole lot more to it, because I took you to Nigeria 2 years ago, where you were made chief of Nwanne Dinamba, which is one of the leaders of the Ohonho community. So you're really immersed. You're not just a member. You're actually one of their leaders, revered leaders. So that's wonderful. I was so glad that was a part of that experience for you. And how about you, Brother Ante? Tell us a little bit more about you before we go into further discussion.
Well, good morning and greetings again. I was awakened by two of our ancestors, Dr. King and uh, Minister Malcolm X, in 1962 and 1965. Um, and I attended the March on Washington in 1963. I heard Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and that ignited a fire for justice for African people in my heart. Dr. King kind of gave me the awareness to love others. Minister Malcolm X gave me the awareness to love our own people. And so I was the co-leader and president of the Student African American Society at Syracuse University. And having grown up in New York City, I thought all of New York State was like New York City. When I got upstate New York, I discovered that Syracuse was really just up south North America. The racism was so thick you could cut it with a knife. There was no place for students of African American descent to gather to affirm ourselves or celebrate ourselves. And so that began a process of building institutions for students of African American descent at Syracuse University. It ultimately led to the Memorial Library for Dr. Martin Luther King and the beginning of a student African American cultural program and schools at Syracuse University. Some of those things still continue to exist, but I was going to say sadly, but we should understand if we go to Syracuse University now in 2021, they're still fighting the same fight we were fighting in 1967 and 68. So it just drives home the truth that we have to build our own institutions. And in the course of that process, in the course of that struggle, it became clear something Malcolm said long ago: either we all going to be free, or ain't none of us going to be free. And the thing, one of the quotes that really stick to me, he says, "Just because you put kittens in an oven, don't make them biscuits." And what he meant by that was because African enslaved people were drugged to America and enslaved here, that did not make us Americans. We were still Africans. And as Malcolm said, you say you didn't leave anything in Africa while you left your mind in Africa. So I've always been sensitive to the developments of Pan-Africanism on the African continent. And when the Pan-African Federalist movement finally began to take more formal shape in 2017 and began talking about creating the United African States in this generation, that was exactly what I had been looking for and had been waiting for. I had continued to grow and study liberation theology in seminary. And so to me, that was the marriage of understanding how the economics and the politics had to come together on the African continent and with Africans in the diaspora so that we could really drive the Pan-African Federalist movement.
Thank you so much. See, it's important that sometimes, you can read people's bio, but it's always better when people hear it from those individuals because it's deeper, it's got deeper meaning and a little bit more emotions involved. And I want to apologize to my listening audience. It's unfortunate that the technology is kind of acting up a little bit. So there are moments that you guys go in and out, but I think that the message is coming across. So all of you bear with us. I have a question, Dr. Ndumodu. Who are the original proponents of Pan-Africanism? Not the Pan-African Federalist movement, but Pan-Africanism before it became Pan-African Federalist movement. Who were the proponents?
Well, we have a number. Yeah, we have many leaders, beginning with Kwame Osagyefo and Nkrumah. and also Brother Marcus Messiah Garvey. And we have Brother Sekou Touré. We have many who have fought for unifying Africa as one. And these brothers did fight, and there were sisters as well. We think about Queen Mother Moore here in America. I mean, she was involved with the idea of unifying Africa as well, though she spent a lot of time with reparations. So these brothers and sisters have resisted the colonialism that we have faced for 400 years, and realized that the only way that we can become powerful and be on the global stage is to come together as one country where we'll have one currency, one military, one educational system. But they laid the foundation for us. And so what we're doing, we're following their lead. These ancestors are still alive in us spiritually, and we call on them every time we meet, because we feel that we need their energy and their light for us to move forward to make this come into fruition. Auntie, you want to add some more?
I would just say that in addition to those people that you named, Mama Nabantu, we certainly would want to include Edward Wilmot Blyden, who spoke very forcefully of Pan-Africanism, and then, of course, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who was instrumental in organizing the first Pan-African Congresses to formally put forward plans and strategies to implement the unification of the African continent.
Exactly. And I don't remember the date, but I believe Brother Kwame went to Liberia at one point where they were trying to bring this all together. And he wanted to make it happen with all the countries. And I believe the president of Liberia was trying to say, well, let's take it step by step. Let's not try to do the whole thing all at once. And so it was watered down, and it really didn't come to the point where we're trying to get it to today.
Okay.
Dr. U,
I want to ask.
I would just say, I think it's also important to your question to be reminded of the Berlin Conference in 1884, right, where 14 European nations carved up the continent of Africa for their own exploitation and spheres of influence. And so the struggle for Pan-African unity goes back at least to the middle of the 19th century.
Okay. Well, let me ask then, what Pan-Africanism, just the Pan-African, not the Pan-African Federalist movement, but the Pan-Africanism is based on the idea of what unites Africans on the continent and diaspora. Why is that important? Why is that an important component of the movement? What connects us? Because I know, a lot of people, when I came to the United States, a lot of Africans in diaspora didn't think they were part of Africa. Some of them didn't want to be a part of it. They don't even want you to call them Africans, but the Pan-Africanism is trying to identify those uniform concepts that tie us together. Why is that important?
Well, let me start by saying that we're all African people. And, we may not be born in Africa, but Africa is within us. And it's been a challenge, those of us here in North America, when we come in contact with continental Africans, to get them to understand that we're just as African as you are. And we have fought and resisted. We are the children of Africa. And it's always been because of the propaganda that the colonialists and those folks who are pressing us on both sides of the Atlantic, who have created this distrust between Africans on the continent and Africans here. And the last thing they wanted to see was us to come together. And I believe it was one of the presidents, what's the name? The peanut president, I can't think of his name. I think he had a declaration that specifically stated, let's keep these Africans separate. We keep the Africans separate so they don't come together. And they continue to keep us separate in so many different factions with the gentrification, here here in North America, and they're doing the same thing there, taking whole cities and villages and gentrifying them and taking them over. So it's been a challenge for us to try to make a difference in terms of bringing us together. And even today, we're trying to bring this gap together. And I really appreciate the relationship that you and I have, Dr. Uwa, in terms of trying to set an example for others to see that, African continentals and Africans on this in the diaspora can be, we can come together and work together. And that is what
We
we
have
need.
to.
Yes.
And that's the word there is we must. There is
Yes.
no alternative.
Right.
We must unite, because only in our unity can we move forward. We can't move forward in Africa without the diasporan Africans. Neither can the diasporan Africans do anything in Africa without the Africans. So we have to come together. But let me ask you, is the Pan-African Federalist movement, is it a reactionary movement?
Well, I think that
Are we reacting to something, or are we building towards something?
I think I
What
would
is our
say that
goal?
I think that we're building something. We're not reacting, because we've been reacting for so long that it's time to put a plan in place. And that's what I see the Pan-African Federalist movement. There has a plan between 2020 and 2023. We want to bring into political existence the United African States. And so that's clear to me, and that's why I'm involved. I've always been about the land, and I've traveled many times on the continent, and that's what I see as important, to bring us together in a way that we can build. And so it's not a reactionary; it is something that we are doing, actively doing, and we do have a plan.
Dr.
Okay.
Uwa, I would
Yes.
just say, so that your listeners are fully aware, we say the United African States. That's important for our people to understand. We're not talking about the United States of Africa. We're talking about the United African States, because what we are bringing together is the multitude, at least the 54 African countries on the continent, as well as African countries in the Caribbean, in North America, throughout the diaspora. So this is a bringing together of African states to form one political unity that can give self-determination and sovereignty for our people. It's also important, I think, I mentioned that Berlin Conference of 1884 and the division of Africa into these non-viable political units. In other words, there are some African countries that have no access to the ocean. They are completely landlocked, and there's no infrastructure for the most part on the African continent linking these different countries and regions together. And that's deliberate. That's so that the exploitation of the African resources and African people can continue for the benefit of their European colonial masters. It was Dr. Frantz Fanon that said, when you take on a language, you take on a worldview. And so as we look at the African continent, we recognize that those areas that were colonized by the British, they speak English. Those areas that were colonized by the French, they speak French. Those that were colonized by the Belgian, they speak Belgian, or Spanish or Italian, and so on and so forth. So we understand that we have to bring these disparate countries and regions into one political unit that can function on behalf of itself, and not continue to be exploited by foreign elements, transnational corporations, foreign countries, who are all sucking the very blood of Africa, and holding our people hostage and in extreme poverty.
Well, is that where the federalism comes in to become is it a federal government or
Yes.
have its own sovereignty, right? I think it's important for them to
Absolutely,
know
absolutely.
that,
Just like the
like
United States
even
is
because
a
the difference between the difference between Pan-Africanism and the Pan-African Federalist movement is that the Pan-African Federalist movement is not just talking about those things that tie us together, but it's talking coming together and becoming one, right? Becoming one sovereign nation, right? Where all of us have a say, a hand in the progress of our people. Am I right or am I right?
You're correct. I mean, this is a bottom up movement, and that's what the
Yes, there you go.
federalism is about. In the past, our leaders have organized around the leaders down to the people, but we realize that that's has failed us in so many different movements. That has failed. This movement is a bottom up movement. So our task, our job, is to mobilize our people on the ground, and let them rise up and let the leaders know we're not taking this anymore, that we need to
Right.
control, we need to have our own sovereignty, we need to be in charge of ourselves. And you can look at the example of Israel, though I cannot go along with what they've done to Palestine. But, the Jews, I don't care where they are on the planet, they always support Israel. So that's what's important for us as Africans, wherever we are, even if we don't all live on the continent, wherever we are, we can support Africa. We can support Africa through our resources, through education, through medicine, through, all kinds of different kinds of resources. And the spirituality part of it that we have lost has to be regained on both sides of the Atlantic. So that's the important thing about the Federalist movement. It's a bottom-up movement, not a top-down movement.
Yeah. And that's why it did not do well in the past, because as you said earlier, the focus was more on the elite working with each other, right? And so the grassroots did not have a stake in the whole thing, right? So it just kind of fizzled. But now when you're working with the grassroots and you get them enthused about their, about being able to control their own resources and talk to those leaders who are giving away the wealth of Africa to other people. You cannot do it with those who are taking advantage of what the foreigners are doing. But if the grassroots are involved and they say, hey, tell their leaders, we've got to change what we're doing. We're not accepting it anymore. I think obviously that's the whole intent here, that more can be achieved with that kind of enthusiasm coming from the grassroots. Now, I have a question. The every single state is supposed to have a local coordinating committee. Now, what is it you need? How do you galvanize people? Now, I know that the Women's Leadership Commission, Mobilization Commission, we are going to be galvanizing women to join all the different commissions, contact you, because right now I've got individuals going on our website and there's a lot of questions they can answer. And if they answer that, some of them say, I want to be a leader. Some of them say, I want to just be a member of a local committee. So what we're going to be doing is sending, those individuals their emails, their phone numbers, so you can get in touch with them. Those who just want to join local committees. Is that what you're needing? You want people to start joining local committees? Is that what you're needing?
Well, let me
for the
say
community
this.
to do?
Let's look at the structure. The structure begins with the IPC, with the International Preparatory Committee. And through the IPC, we have regions. We have 5 regions on the continent and 4 in the diaspora. North America is one of those regions. And then when you go to the region, each region have state or country representatives. And under the state, you have local coordinating committees. So here in North America, we're looking at the 25 states that has the largest African population. And so when we look at those 25 states, we're looking to get a state representative for each one of those states. And then their responsibility will be to help organize local coordinated committees with major cities within that state. So, like, I am the local coordinator here for Metro Atlanta. So, my task, and I'm also acting as a state representative. But once we get someone to deal with the local area, the local coordinating committee, then I can step up and work on the state level, and that would be to identify all over Georgia the different cities in North Georgia, South Georgia, East Georgia, down in Macon, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, all over Georgia. That would be my task, to help organize LCCs within the cities of the state. And so we do have Florida, we have New York, and we have Washington, D.C. that are doing the same thing that I'm doing. There's mobilized.
So it's okay. So that information is, and I'll show the website for the Pan-African Federalist Movement as we go along. They can actually go there and find information where to go if they're interested. I know I have a website that people can come to, but they can also come to the website and indicate what their interest is, right? And then they can be directed accordingly, right?
Yes and no. We're working on the website. We're working on the international website. So when you go to that site, you can click on a tab that takes you to each of the regions. And then from those regions, you can click tabs to look at the countries or the states that are involved, and look for the people that you can contact wherever you are living. You want to find out who is working for the Pan-African Federalist Movement in your particular city. So that's what that website will do for us. In the meantime, those of us on the ground who know people in the various different states and various countries, we're communicating with them. We go to various different festivals and conferences. We try to be present. We try to get our speakers to have at least a 5-minute moment in whatever conference is going on, particularly the Pan-African conferences. And we've done this in the past. We'll have some of the leaders come and speak on the Pan-African Federalist Movement, because so many people don't know what the Pan-African Federalist Movement is about. And our real energy goes toward the youth, because we realize that over 70% of the youth on the continent are 35 years and younger. So that's a task that we have to do. The education is so important, to educate them. Some of them don't even know who Brother Nkrumah or Marcus Garvey, Sekou Touré, or any of those people were. So that the education is very key in our mobilization process.
Okay, because next week, which is exciting, because next week we're going to be featuring the Youth Commission. So they have some young people that we're going to see and speak to that are joining the movement. And that's exciting when young people are, feel that they are part of the whole thing, because after all, they're the future. So you have to prepare them right now. So anyway, Brother Auntie, when you visualize the United African States, when you visualize it, what do you see? What do you want people to see in the United African States? How's that going to be different from what they're familiar with? How's that going to be different?
It's a very profound question, Dr. Uwa. What it boils down to is African people, no matter where they are on the planet, having self-determination and sovereignty. So what that means, for example, is there would be one currency. There would be the ability for Africans to move across the continent the same way African Americans move across the United States. In other words, if I drive from Georgia to Florida, or from Georgia to North Carolina, South Carolina, I can drive all the way to Canada without a checkpoint or anything. So that Africans would have the ability to move throughout the diaspora and across the continent without these checkpoints. In other words, it would be one political unit or entity. It would also be the opportunity to be educated, to participate in rituals and celebrations. I don't know about other people, but I think Mama Ndumodu and I would both agree. We're looking forward to being able to go back to the countries where our ancestry began. For example, my DNA traces back to Cameroon and Sierra Leone. So being able to go back to those villages and connect with those people, it's part of how I get excited about thinking about the Pan-African Federalist movement, uh, and being able to, for example, support that entity with my resources to build out the institutions that our people will need both now and in the future. I, your question is so profound because we don't realize how much we have been captivated by Western civilization. Most of our imagination has been blunted by being able to only see what Europeans have allowed us to see. So we have to break those shackles and begin to really uh, create for ourselves whole new vistas of what life will be when we are in control of our own, not only politics, but just as important, our own economics. One of the things that's so exploitative about Western civilization is uh, it creates these elites. It creates these disparities, these income disparities, where you have a handful of super rich people, and then the majority, the masses, struggling day to day, trying to get by in grinding poverty. So one of the visions for the Pan-African Federalist movement, when it takes actual political form, would be that we control our own economics so that all of us are lifted out of poverty and are able to enjoy the benefits and the fruits of our labor. Because the wealth of Africa has fueled the wealth of the rest of the world. You
Of
take
the
away
world,
the
that's right.
resources from France or England or Germany, those countries would plummet in terms of GDP and standard of living. They are propped up by their ability to exploit the wealth of Africa. And so we look forward to the day when the wealth of Africa will flow to African African people. And one last point on that, Dr. Uwa, uh, using an example that Mama Ndumodu shared earlier in the interview, if you go to, and again, we don't necessarily like to use Israel because it is such an exploiter of the Palestinian people. But when you move through the state of Israel, you see middle class lifestyle available to all of Israel's citizens. You don't see poverty there. Multiple universities, multiple opportunities for children to express themselves and to grow. So similarly, we would see that same kind of lifestyle available to the average African person. In other words, the villages wouldn't be just rife with sickness and disease and people sitting around waiting for a handout, but in fact would be industrious, would be self-sufficient, would feed themselves, clothe themselves, and educate themselves. So we really have to open our minds to new possibilities for ourselves, and recreate a world that works for us and showcases just our genius and our beauty.
And you know, one of the things that I think that we are losing as a people is identifying with our culture as a rich component of who we are, not something introduced for us to practice now and there. We have a particular time of the year where we celebrate our Africanness. We wear our African clothing. We speak some African words here and there. We do some little African activities. But I think it's imperative that people understand that being African is a total being. It's your total being. That means every aspect of your Africanness is good enough. You cannot have other people define how you should celebrate your Africanness. Every aspect of your Africanness is what your core being should be. That means your spirituality. That means your African culture in every facet that you find it. All the diversity of the African people coming together and using all that diversity to attract the rest of the world will be phenomenal. I find that is one of the things that, quite frankly, makes us uncomfortable as a people. We're literally afraid to express our Africanness. It's almost like, if you express your Africanness, then people think, oh, you're too radical. There's somehow being African is a radical concept for a lot of people, whereas that's not what it is. So I'm going to ask both of you, and I'm going to ask that again succinctly. I am now a member of the United African States. What am I seeing? What's going on? Is it going to be the same thing? Is it going to still have all that Eurocentrism in it? What's going to be different? What's going to excite me to be a member of the United African States? Take me there.
One of the things we're going to see is that we're going to be self-determined in our dress, the way we dress. I meet many continental Africans who don't even dress African anymore. They feel that to be powerful, they have to dress in a Western style, and that needs to stop. And part of this, for me, I know Brother Auntie talks about economics, but also for me is this education. The African-centered education, where you center the child in their own culture, and they learn about their own history. And then it gets toward the global world in terms of what has happened to us as a people. And so many young people on the continent have no clue as to what happened to us when we were uprooted from the continent and brought over here. They don't even know. And then when you tell them, they sort of break down this, I didn't know, but you need to know. And the only way they're going to know is that we have to educate them properly about our history here in the diaspora, as well as the history right there on the continent. A lot of them don't even know all the leaders on the continent that are responsible for some of the things that we have done. So for me, I want to see a world where we can walk down the street and see everyone in their own tradition, and we calling each other by their African names, not the names that were given to us.
And it's okay.
Yes, that's one of the reasons, like even here, people do not know that their last name is connected to a plantation. My family's name was Ellis, the Ellis plantation, and once you understand that here in North America, that your names have nothing to do with who you really are, so you need to give your names have destiny, names have meanings, so I like to see a world on the continent where we can call each other by names, and we know the destiny just by listening to understanding the names. And of course, we have to come with a one language that we can all communicate with. And one of the issues we have is that there's so many languages and dialects throughout the continent that we sometimes can't understand each other. But I think that if we come with a common language, that's what I'll see. So wherever I go on the continent, I can speak that one common language and communicate with everyone. And, these languages have so many different profound meanings as opposed to the English language, which is a disruptive language, is a language that has really no true meaning and understanding. So like when we greet each other, Ndawe Ndawe? Because it says we wish you a fruitful life, not just hello, how you, and just go about your business. But I see a life of culture, dance and drumming, and actually the brain drain that has come, the continentals who come here and don't want to go back. They think they've become very complacent, and we need to go back and build up Africa with the skills that we have. We have so much to offer, and we need to take it there and build Africa to the top.
So much to offer ourselves.
Yes, the global leader of the planet. That's who we are. We got all the resources.
That's it.
There's no reason why we can't be on top of it.
And Dr. Uwa,
there's no reason. Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank you for your question, because I think it goes to the very core of why it is absolutely necessary that we build the United African States. the core for
Mm-hmm.
us is ma'at, as a philosophical outlook and worldview. Ma'at meaning truth, justice, righteousness, order, balance, harmony, and reciprocity. Uh, what we have to
Mm-hmm.
understand is that there's a lot of things that present themselves as African that really are just a veneer for something underneath that's really European. But when we get back to a fundamental African philosophical worldview based on those seven principles, then we begin to understand, for example, how do we treat Mother Earth? Is this just a resource to be divided up and conquered and exploited, so that we wind up in a situation of global warming? Or is Mother Earth, in fact, a living being? And that we are in this symbiotic relationship with her, and that as we reverence her, she in turn returns life to us. So that at the root of what we are doing, we are bringing back to the forefront an African view of how to live as sentient beings on the planet, and it starts with this philosophical foundation based in an African concept of ma'at: truth, justice, righteousness, order, balance, harmony, and reciprocity. When those principles are practiced and manifested in all of our interactions and all of our activities, we find that life is balanced, is harmonious, and most importantly, is sustainable. We resolve the global warming crisis. We resolve the exploitation crisis. We resolve all of this war and friction between people, because now we are functioning in alignment with the cosmic order in the universe.
And that is, I'm so glad you said that, because that is quite frankly at the core of African tradition, African way of life. You know, exemplifies all the core principles that you just outlined. In every African community you go to, that's their core principles. Okay, but we have left all of that in search of something other than ourselves. So in Dr. Ndumodu, I would like to see a United African States where the mannequins are black, for God's sake. It's okay for them to wear African clothing. The black mannequins, you were with, we hardly saw anyone. And that is that whole concept that we're not good enough, even in our own clothing. We're not even good enough. Somebody else has to model us back to us. Do you know what I'm talking about, Dr. Ndumodu? You saw that.
I did see
It was a
that, and when
shocking.
I went into the marketplace, they're selling all these white people's clothes that have been poured into the continent to the point where the textile companies are now outside of Africa. Most of them, it's very hard to even find African material or fabric that's actually made in Africa, except for like you go to Ghana to a Ashanti village and you see the kente cloth. So that's a big problem with all these clothes that they're pouring into Africa that people don't want
No, no, no.
anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm talking about, that's true. But I'm talking about the fact that you can walk down the marketplace and you don't see a black mannequin.
Oh, true.
The
Yes,
mannequins, like, yeah, they're modeling African clothing, but they're white
right.
models. I have nothing against whites. That's not the point of the matter. I'm just saying that we need to appreciate ourselves enough that when we see ourselves in our own things, it's okay. It's perfectly okay. So you have a United African States where it's okay to be African. And we're not saying that the rest of the world are locked out. Of course not. It's a global world. I'm just saying that the whole idea is for us to now take control of our growth or lack thereof.
And
But we are
unapologetically.
with honor. That's right. We're not apologizing. We've got to, you cannot, I say it all the time. You cannot grow into greatness by hiding in the shadows. You've got to step forward, make your point, and take responsibility. You only grow when you admit to yourself that you've got the right to do so. The world is a Serengeti. Only the survival of the fittest happens. If you're going to be one of those that wait for things to happen for you, it will not. things will be taken from you instead of given to you. So you're responsible. I am excited about the Pan-African Federalist movement. And I know that this is going to catch on, it's catching on already, because it's a mandatory thing that we must do. I want to take a moment before we forget to share some websites and phone numbers so that people know how to get in touch with you. Let's see here. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the Pan-African Federalist movement, there is an existing website that you should visit, and that is United Africa by 2020.org. It's got some basic information in there that will help you to understand as much as you can about the Pan-African Federalist movement and why it's imperative that you become a part of it. If you want to know what the Women Commission is doing, Leadership Mobilization Commission is doing, you visit womencommission.net. We have a lot of information about what we are doing, the events that we're hosting, all sorts of things, that how we're mobilizing and where we're mobilizing at, because sometimes we're doing it different places. And here is our phone number, 470-541-3448. Dr. Ndumodu, could you please give your number? Could you please share your number, how they can get in touch with you?
Okay.
If anybody wants to call you.
It's 650
650
766
766
5663.
So this is the number if you want to reach Dr. Ndumodu.
No, it's 650. 650.
Oh, I beg your pardon. So, okay, that's all right. Let me correct that. 650?
766
Okay.
5663.
766
5663.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's important for people, you know, I get all these calls and I'm trying to let them know, okay, there's somebody who's in charge of the local program commission. I beg your pardon, coordinating committee. So here is the number. For those of you who have asked me, here's the number again for Dr. Ndumodu, 650.
No, 650 766 5663.
Okay. All right, let's get it right. No problem. Because your name, your voice keeps going in and out. Okay, so let's say it again. What is it again? 650
766
766
5663.
Okay, let's see if I have it right now. Okay,
Correct.
Is this correct now?
Yes.
650 766 5663. I have individuals, those of you who have called me, she is in charge of the state of Atlanta. I mean, the state of Georgia right now. So we are going to be giving you her phone number. Anytime you call me, I'm going to give you her phone number so that you can join the local committee. Do we need can we have yours as well?
Use that same number.
Use the same number? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's very, very important. People are really, I mean, I'm going to tell you guys, and I'll share that with you very soon. People are interested. They are interested. I'm getting calls. My website is just, I mean, I think it's ridiculous, the number of interest that we're generating. So that's exciting. And for Ndumodu, if you want to continue to watch us on Saturdays, it's www.facebook.com/Ndumodu. That's Ndumodu 1. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's just been wonderful to have these two wonderful people here. I would like to read some of the comments that individuals have made. This is from Wilhelmia. Wilhelmia. Am I saying it correctly? I do not know. I beg your pardon. It says beautiful, motivational, peace and goodwill to all. Mbo. That's an African language, I'm sure. but I'm not sure what it means, but I know it means something positive. Thank you. Thank you. If I messed up your name, I do apologize. And then here's another comment here. With love and all humility, I greet all the eminent personalities in this lofty space. Our call ultimately is to establish a civilization that will unify all of the humankind. And for us to achieve this, we must first unite ourselves as Black people. This we must do systematically and scientifically by finding solutions to our fundamental issue. This is what we are doing in Nigeria, because ultimately Nigeria must take a lead in this glorious sojourn of Africa realization. Great nations do not. Then it stops right there. But thank you very much, Musa Obodo Abdullah Haman. If I said it wrong again, I do apologize. This is wonderful. Thank you for that commentary. Don't you guys agree? That's wonderful.
Good point.
You say, love that. Okay. Yes, absolutely. And then there's a point here made by Ndumodu on your keys to Pan-Africanism, cultural consistency, environmental love, educational excellence, community empowerment, economic development. There are some wonderful, thank you so much, UD. These are a lot of, I'll read one more from UD. Remember, when other cultures outside of Africa see a Black person, they do not differentiate. They do not see African American, Haitian, Jamaican, British Black, Asian Black, etc. They only see our Black skin as inferior to them. Unity is the key to success. Self-love is key. Seeing ourselves collectively as one people is prerequisite to nation formation, nation building, and management. Again, culture is the backbone of a people. Diversity is divine. We cannot lose it. Absolutely. Love that. Love that. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, I could talk to both of you forever. And I just want you to give me your last commentary before we close this show today.
Okay.
And I'll start with you, Doctor.
I just want to leave with a quote from Cheikh Anta Diop. And he rightfully says that African unity, I feel, will come from the base and develop as an undercurrent to the present political sterility and economic stagnancy rampant on our continent. A feeling of general insecurity generated by the ineptitude of African regimes in dealing with the most crucial issues will result in the masses entering the picture sooner or later. As generalized insecurity spreads, no African regime will be able to prevent the masses from seeing that the ineptitude of their own government is linked to this general insecurity. At that point, he states, I feel the masses will find within their own ranks the type of political vanguards made of young, altruistic and politically motivated Africans to unleash a powerful continent-wide movement. This political undercurrent would eventually be forced to sweep away the objective obstacles standing in the way of a continental African federation. I believe everything that he just stated. And so we have to move forward and work towards the unification of Africa. Yes.
That's right. In this decade. We don't have time to wait. We can't wait. Right now. It has to happen right now.
And I would simply add a quote from the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey: Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad.
Ashe.
Ashe. He said no. And I thank you to all our viewers for your participation. Remember to join us next Saturday at 10 a.m. as we interview the chairs of the Youth Commission of the Pan-African Federalist Movement. We'll get to interview, I mentioned it a little earlier, but I'm excited to present to you some of the most hardworking young people. I mean, when you see them, you know that the future of the African world is going to be shining bright, because these kids are dedication. They're not waiting around. They're not listening to nonsense. They are ready to be the ones to change the direction of our people. Now, one more thing I want to add, because before we leave, I think obviously we owe reparations. We are owed reparations. That's a whole different story. We can go into it another time, but that's part of what we are looking for. Am I not right?
Absolutely.
We are owed reparations. We are absolutely owed that. In closing, in unity, thank you. In unity, we can reenact our glorious past in the present through hard work, high moral quality, peace, and love, which is within the personal ability of every African. To the Greeks of ancient times, The black man was paragon of moral perfection. So whatever it is they're telling you about yourself, it's all a lie. We still got it. Women are still powerful. Our men are still powerful. We need to know that and act accordingly. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. Until next week, please have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Brother Auntie, and thank you, Dr. Nobantu. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dr. Uwai, for giving us this opportunity to share the movement of the future. Ashe.
Oh, you're welcome. And so it is. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Okay.